Gromit.
You think he set himself up as a rogue cosmetic surgeon to operate on a friend of yours, disfigure her, and turn her into a Bruce Forsyth lookalike just to piss you off? Yep. Thing is, I'm not even that pissed off. Welcome to the Sunday Movie Marathon.
And what movie is that from?
It's from the great TV show, Toast of London.
Ooh. When you were saying about operations, I thought you were on about the Repo opera film that we watched a couple of weeks ago.
No, not as great as that, but you know.
PTSD flashbacks of sitting through that fucking movie.
Yeah. Never again.
Well, it's been a bit of a special week, wouldn't you say, lads?
Yeah, it's been pretty special. Everyone's on the hype.
Historic moment has happened with the release of the first cut of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
The first cut. First of many cuts.
There's also a Justice League Grey edition coming out. That's all in black and white and has an alternate ending. Basically, it's just the Joker saying, we live in a society. You know the lines from the trailer that just never came in this movie?
They snubbed it. That would have been the best part of that movie.
Jared Leto's Joker was not even a noticeable part of that movie.
No. Well, he did it. Old Zacky. He got this hashtag Snyder Cut. It was released. He did it. I gotta say, everyone watch this movie. I got like a Now TV subscription just to watch it. And now I guess I've got to keep it because Promising Young Woman is coming out next month, and I really want to see that before the Oscars.
There's also Birds of Prey on there that I kind of want to watch just to see what it's like. Another DC movie to add to the belt.
It's one of the better ones, I'll say that. It's not very good, but I mean, like the bar is set so low for the DCEU. Like even like a slightly enjoyable film with something kind of okay is like, it's like having a gourmet meal for the first time in your life.
It's I think we had this discussion earlier in the week, but it just seems that Zack Snyder or everyone making DC movies is just trying to follow the trope that Nolan went for, with the dark, gritty, more, I want to say violent, but more realistic take on Batman, which works for that character, but not for the whole fucking DCEU.
No.
You see Aquaman, forget about it.
Mate,
so
that movie was dreadful. What did you guys think of before we get onto the movies, what did you guys think of the Snyder Cut then? 3 hours and 58 minute runtime.
Well, I think the pertinent questions to ask is it better than the original cut? I think it is. I think everyone thinks that it is. But another question that we have to ask is it good?
Well, I would say yes and no. I'd say yes. Like you said earlier this week, Max, it's almost like having shit for dinner and then having something really basic. It's going to be miles better just because anything is better than shit. And I think anything they would have done would have been better than Justice League 2017 because that movie was just a train wreck. But I think Zack Snyder should have done this in parts. So throughout the movie, there's obviously part 1 all the way up to the epilogue, part 7. It would have made a bit of sense to release it as a series on... Fuck me, what's it on again? Now TV. Or whatever streaming platform that it's on. Because a 4-hour movie is not something that everyone can sit through.
No, I sat through it in like 2 sittings, I think. I think I watched most of it and then went for a walk and then finished it afterwards.
I will say, I was watching it and I was like, I'm curious of like what the runtime is at the moment. And it was an hour and a half into the movie. And I was like, we're technically still on the opening phase of this film where they're introducing all the characters. It's like, this is where movies end.
Yeah.
I would say this movie made a lot more sense. I mean, you guys said it told the exact same story. It didn't. Like, yeah, there was still the premise of Steppenwolf invading Earth for the Mother Box, but it goes further beyond that in the Snyder Cut, because not only do you find out he's doing it, like what his motive is behind it. I mean, in 2017 Justice League, it was because it was his mother or something. Like, it was a ridiculous reason of why he went to Earth to get these boxes. But as you find out in the Snyder Cut, it was redemption for something that he had done, obviously the dark side, earlier on, that we don't find out about. And while he's there, he obviously finds the anti-life equation, which in the DC Comics is a really big thing. It's almost like the Infinity Stones in the MCU. So the story's completely different, and I think it's a lot. Cohesively, it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot more. Well, it's not as stupid, if you get me.
Yeah. I would disagree that the story is completely different. Like, obviously, they delve more into the villain. He has a different motive, definitely, but like everything surrounding that is still pretty much the exact same story.
But
they
it's
definitely
not,
they add more to it, but they don't change a lot.
It's just a lot more shit, and like you're like fooled into thinking it's different when it's like the base concept is still there. I hadn't seen the Justice League before. So I watched it in preparation for this, and then I watched the Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 days later. I'm like, this is like the same thing, just with more stuff on it. And I get it. Like, the motivation for what's his face, Steppenwolf, was shit name, by the way. It's like kind of different, but at the same time, it's like, well, who even cares? Whatever about his motivation, man. Like, he's just like, oh, he's trying to redeem himself, whatever, but it's not interesting at all. Just like, and now I've got to get the boxes. I had to get the boxes before. But this time it's like he's got to, like, they try to, there's like this whole exposition scene that takes about half an hour, and that Wonder Woman's telling, and then it's like, oh yeah, they came to the Earth, and then then we beat their asses, and then they like ran away, but they forgot their boxes, so we stole their boxes and then put them in like a cement casing, and then they came back for the boxes. It's like, it's the same kind of thing. It's just like the motivation is a little bit different, but it's still not interesting.
First of all, they didn't forget the boxes. Darkseid was gravely injured and didn't have time to retrieve them.
Yeah, so they forgot.
So, but
not one person thought, all right, I'll swing back a bit. Pick him
probably
up.
not. No, they're fucking the strongest person they knew just got an axe to the fucking shoulder and passed out. They're shit scared. But like saying, I mean, the story for Justice League 2017, Steppenwolf came to the Earth to get the boxes in order to conquer Earth, right? That was the story of 2017 Justice League. The story for 2021 Justice League, Steppenwolf came to Earth to get the boxes to terraform the planet to help try and find the antimatter equation for Darkseid in order to take over the universe. How are they the same story?
Saying really such poorly communicated, though. Film.
But saying the motive's different, but the baseline's the same. You could say that about anything. Every buddy cop movie is the same movie, different motives. At the end of the day, the two guys pal up together, take down the bad guy. But yeah, the stories were vastly different. Vastly.
The villain's story isn't the whole film. Like, obviously the entire story of like Batman having to get like this group together, all that stuff, bringing back Superman, all that sort of shit. That's the exact same.
Well, yeah, of course it's going to be, because it's the Justice League movie. They're parts that obviously Josh Whedon had taken from Zack Snyder and then put in the bits that he thought would make sense alongside that, which was this stupid storyline of Steppenwolf coming to Earth because the boxes are something about his mother. I honestly can't remember because the movie was batshit. But the reason the villains are there on Earth in general is a completely different narrative to what they were in the 2017, I always forget the fucking years, 2017 Justice League movies. It's just reactionary that the Justice League team up, the forming of the actual group, happens in the same way. But that's not the story. That's a byproduct of narrative of these villains coming to Earth to find this equation that they had. I found that part stupid as well. So the reason Darkseid didn't come back to Earth to find this antimatter equation is because he forgot. He forgot Earth existed or where Earth was, and it was like, oh, come on. Like,
well, fine. You know what? Fine. Fine. Okay. You're right. But here's the thing.
Hey,
Who
man,
cares?
It's not about being right. It's not about being wrong. We all interpret movies differently, don't we?
Like, fine. Okay. I acknowledge that the story was slightly different. Motivations were tweaked a bit. But the thing is that I didn't care either way. Like, because there's no character here that I am invested in. The villains were just as drab as in the original. Steppenwolf sucked. He looked awful.
He did.
He looked like a game of Kaplunk. The
I
heroes.
can't see that now.
The heroes had no chemistry. They had no character. And sure, they took out a lot of the comedy and the stupid, like, terrible plot lines, like with the Russian family and the forced comedy and humor that was in the original. That's fine, but they forgot to make the characters likable.
Yeah, one thing that DC seem to have a big issue with is just how poor they are at character development. Because unlike, and this is why I think it's so important for them to not jump into a team-up movie instantly. It took 4 years before we got the first Avengers movie from the release of Iron Man 1 back in 2008, and then we got Avengers in 2012. That allowed us to, we were introduced to every single character. Obviously, we had the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2 that introduced Black Widow, Captain America, and then Thor. So all of our characters were introduced. Obviously, there was a huge development of their characters in those movies, especially with Iron Man having 2 movies out by the time of Avengers. So by the time we got to that team-up movie, we had some form of understanding of the characters, their motivations, all of this sort of shit. We had what? Man of Steel, which was shit. Batman v Superman, which was shit. Wonder Woman, which was okay. Did Aquaman come out before Justice League?
No,
we didn't even have that. And then we're introduced to all these characters who don't even know about each other, and you're just like, why do I fucking care? Like, yeah. So I for that reason, I don't know. I think if I had to say, I don't think Justice League, either one of them, were an amazing movie. The 2021 version is a lot better just because, like Max said, the first one was incredibly shit, so anything is just going to be above that bar.
Yeah, I do liken this to the Avengers. It's trying to do the exact same thing as Avengers did, but a decade later. It's boring as hell, man. And, like, at least, like, in Avengers, you get, like, in that movie, there's, like, a dynamic that they have between the heroes. They're at odds with each other, and they don't really get along. And then, like, someone dies, and then it brings the weight of the situation home to these characters, and they're this, like, broken team that have to learn to get along and work together. In Justice League, it's like, oh, Flash is like, oh, you know what, Batman, I'll join your team because I really need friends. And then Aquaman shows up to help at the end of, like, the first battle, and then he's like, oh, get out of here. And then they, like, stand there, and they're just like, wow, Aquaman's helping us now. And then they leave, and then it's like, oh, okay, great. And, like, then, like, none of them have any chemistry with each other. None of them like each other. There's no interesting dynamics. It's just like, Batman's like, I'm gonna bring this team together, Wonder Woman, and you'll see. And then they bring the team together, and they don't like each other. Like, Cyborg, like, we get a lot more to do with him, but he doesn't even seem to, like, want to be there at all. He hates them all. And then, like, we get, like, this fucking backstory for Cyborg, and everyone's like, oh, this movie is so great. We got a Cyborg backstory, and it's like, okay, but who cares? It was boring, man. It was so boring. It goes into, like, his mind palace, Sherlock style. It's all this, like, horrible green screen effect. It looks awful. He's, like, transferring money into some woman's bank account, and he's like, hey, there you go. Have fun with your piles of money. And then he just, like, flies away. It's so boring. It's so bad. Who cares about these fucking characters, man? They suck so much. Oh, my God. I hate Aquaman, I hate Batman, I hate Wonder Woman, The Flash. They're all terrible. They all suck. All right, how did you make Batman bad? How did you? And then Superman's in this movie. Holy shit, I completely forgot about that. He just turns up. He's like, oh, all right, okay. And they like revive him in like the swimming pool from like the B movie. And then it's like, oh, he turns up, and then they fight. Okay, great, brilliant. Fucking hell.
I think this movie has fucking broken Max.
I watched it all in one go as well. I took like little breaks at the where it says like part 2 and stuff.
I watched
I
it
stuck
in
it out.
two segments. I watched 3 hours, and then it was like 4 a.m. I was like, I'm so tired, I've got to go to bed. And then I watched the rest of it the next day.
Yeah, I also watched the first 3 hours and then watched the last hour after.
It's a fucking mission to sit. I don't know if you know, there's that whole picture going around like, oh, the Snyder Cut has made the Jonas Brothers, the guys who directed Infinity War, like, oh yeah, we want to release a 6-hour cut of Infinity War. I don't know if that's a joke or not.
Did the Jonas Brothers direct that movie?
You
I
mean
didn't
the
realise
Russo
they did
brothers?
that.
It was Max. I was fucking joking. I can't remember the brother's name.
What, the Russo
Russos.
Brothers?
That's the one. Yeah. Jeez. Of course, I don't think the Jonas Brothers directed Infinity War. Get with it,
That'd
bro.
be sick though. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah. I think all like the deleted scenes and stuff from Infinity War and Endgame are on the Blu-rays. I don't think there's much that they actually kept out in the end. So.
Well, the director of what's it called? Suicide Squad has been like, yeah, I want to do a director's cut of Suicide Squad. But then you go back to when Suicide Squad was released, and he was like, this is my definitive cut. This is the direction that I wanted to do. This is what I wanted to make. And now he's like, oh, the studio, oh, they didn't make me let me make my movie. You're like,
Yeah.
no, you said no one wants a Suicide Squad extended director's cut because it was shit anyway.
There has been a petition for it, but Warner Brothers have literally just straight up said, no, it's not going to happen.
It's the hardcore fans that are definitely going to want that. I could not imagine sitting through that movie and having to watch Jared Leto's Joker more than I have to in that movie anyway.
No.
And the whole, do you guys know the whole end part of just the epilogue, the whole thing of like them being in the apocalyptic future is just in Zack Snyder's garden.
That doesn't surprise me.
He put up green screens and just recorded it in his garden because he couldn't get the studio. Which, fair play, dedication to the man. And I do appreciate the fact that, you know, when, what's his name? Batman picks up the Flash and then they drive off. That car looks CGI as well, and the way it drove. But they gave, like, a huge portion of the profits of this movie. It's like a suicide prevention campaign. So, just thought I'd mention that. Props to Zack.
Yeah. Well, obviously he came back after his daughter had died. So I appreciate, like, he had like a little thing at the end for her. I appreciate that. He wanted it to be in like black and white. I don't know if that would have been better, but that's what.
Well, we're gonna find out soon, man.
Yeah, I probably won't
Justice
watch
League
that, honestly.
Great
I'm not gonna
Edition.
watch that again. This film is 4 hours. It is unnecessarily long. I'm not sitting through this again.
I'm pretty sure if you wanted to watch it in black and white anyway, just download the whole film, put it in Premiere Pro, and just put a grey and black filter over it. There you go, sorted.
Well, here's the thing: like, if you want black and white to look good, then you got to shoot on black and white, don't you? This is.
I think he
been shot on black
intended
and
to
white.
shoot this movie in. He wanted to shoot it in black and white anyway. Like originally,
didn't
when
let him.
he,
Yeah. You can kind of tell from some of this film, like a lot of the colouring and stuff is like very drab and like the lighting's very dark. So I feel like this is like a film where it would translate okay to black and white.
Are any of you guys extremely? I was so happy that the last hour of the film, like, you know, where they fight Steppenwolf in his little base thing, without that horrible red fucking filter over everything.
It
that
looked
was
a hell of a lot better.
Yeah,
That whole
it was
sequence was actually like really like a lot better. I felt like just the whole thing was just like more cathartic, and like I was engaged more with it. It like the colors popped more because it was set at like nighttime. So I got to give props to like that. I think Zack Snyder, he knows how to like he knows what his visual style is, and maybe like sometimes it doesn't work very well, but it still worked at points in this movie, so I got to give him props for that.
Yeah.
Because like in the original one, Joss Whedon comes in, he's like, I'm going to up the saturation, everything's going to be really colourful. It looked disgusting, man. It looks so bad.
He's about to lose it again, Chris.
And he didn't even like understand like Zack Snyder's vision for the movie in the first place. So you can't like bring this guy on just because he did Avengers like 2 times. And those are like very like colourful movies, I guess. Or like the saturation was like more like bright. And then like he comes into Justice League and he's like, I'm gonna make this just like the Avengers. But it's not like that inherently at its core. So I don't know why they bothered.
No.
Did you guys notice the Spider-Man Easter egg in Justice League?
No.
Spider-Man?
Yeah,
No.
Okay, so you know when Superman comes back to life and lands by the memorial for him, and then they have that little fight scene between all of them.
Yeah, that was epic.
You know when Flash, he dodges a few of his punches and then falls to the ground, and he's leaning against that that pillar. It's got a bunch of names behind him. Yeah, one of the names on there is Ben Parker. Obviously, Spider-Man's uncle dies like every fucking movie he's in.
Yeah, that was epic.
Man just doesn't catch a break.
Best part of this movie was definitely in that scene where Flash is like running towards Superman, and then like Superman like dodges him, and like as he dodges him, he slaps Flash on the ass.
I will say the best scene in that movie is I love in both Justice League movies. It's just the best scene for me is when the Flash is just like running next to Superman, and then you just see Superman's eyes turn to Flash, and then his head just moves, and he just shits himself, and you're like, yes, Superman, of course he can move at like supersonic speeds.
Yeah.
So, final thoughts. If we had to give this movie a rating out of 10, so we're going to give it 10 Snyder cuts, what are you guys going to give it?
I would probably give it like a low 5. Like, it's definitely better than the original, but there's still not a lot that I like about the film. And like, there's a lot of really cringy stuff that's been added, like all the unnecessary slow motion, which if you took it out would probably cut the film down by an hour.
No. There's 24 minutes and 5 seconds of slow motion in this movie. Someone works it out.
Yeah, it's just unnecessary.
I remember putting that in the chat. I was like, cannot believe how much there is.
And like the music's really bad as well. Like anytime you see Wonder Woman, there's like this just really cringy song that always plays. And like there's constantly like bits in the film where it basically just like becomes like a trailer where you've got like this Scottish folk music over like slow motion and stuff. It's just,
I will say,
an absolute mess still.
Wonder Woman's theme, not the weird song that plays every time she's on the screen, but her theme song is probably the best theme for any of the DC heroes. I think it's so good, and it's very encapsulating of her character. But I don't know why they just covered it up with this shitty music, whatever it was.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings fantasy stuff.
So, before we extend this podcast like 4 hours,
I was
Chris,
like the only one who gave my rating. Gave it a 5 out of 10.
Max, what are you giving it?
Low 5.
I hate this movie, man. I hated the original, and I hate that more. But at this, I still like kind of hate it, but I hate it less because it just feels more. It feels less cynical and cash grabby because like it's Zack Snyder's like true vision. I hate it, man. It's really bad. Aquaman should have been nicer. He was a dick in this movie. And they added more scenes with him, but God, at what cost? 3 Snyders out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a high 4 to low 5s as well.
I don't understand like why it's getting like really high ratings from literally everyone.
I think it's just, at the moment, I think it's just a bit of hype. Like, this has been a thing for 4 years that Zack Snyder has been campaigning that he wants to do. And I think a lot of people just thought it was never going to happen. And now that it is, you're just like, oh shit, it's actually here. And it's 4 hours long. It's 4x3. People are just like, I think it's just the honeymoon phase of this movie coming out.
He'll get like a year on, they'll be like, oh, that
Do you remember
actually
Snyder's
wasn't
cut?
that
Yeah,
good,
pretty
was it?
shit, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's currently, I think, in the like top 200 on IMDb, so I don't know how much longer it's going to stay on there.
We'll find out.
not long.
Anyway, on to the recommendations.
Go on then, it's your fucking movie.
Yeah, I was waiting to see if anyone else had anything to chime in with before I started talking about it.
No, man. You crack on.
Okay, so the film I picked was a film that I've not watched before, but I was quite interested in it because I really like the director, at least a couple films I've seen by him. I picked the film Dead Man, directed by Jim Jarmusch. This is a film about a guy called William Blake, played by Johnny Depp, who moves to this new town in the Wild West. He ends up getting shot. He rides on this horse away, and then he wakes up and meets a Native American Indian called Nobody, who basically takes him on a spiritual journey and prepares him for death, because slowly throughout the film he is dying because he's got a bullet lodged in him which he can't remove. So yeah, the film is about him on this spiritual journey before eventually dying, I guess. I have a lot of thoughts on the film, so what did you guys think of it before I say anything?
So, I genuinely think the reason I'm giving David Lynch's movies a very low score is because I just don't understand them. Because this movie, although I liked it, I found it far more interesting than I did likeable. It was a good movie, don't get me wrong, and Johnny Depp's performance was amazing, but I actually understood this movie.
Yeah. I think it's kind of a deep film, but it's one that's also quite easy to understand in a lot of ways.
No. This movie was boring. I didn't like this movie at all.
Did you actually not like it?
I didn't like it at all, man. I was so bored. Oh, God, I was bored. Like, who
It's
cares
very
about
slow.
anything that's happening in this movie? It's 2 hours long. It didn't need to be 2 hours long, I don't think. I was thinking like an hour and a half could have communicated exactly what it was going for, but then like I guess it's like a kind of movie where like you get what you take out of it. I just didn't really care too much for what it was trying to tell me. I disagree with that Johnny Depp was good in this movie. He looked good, like the outfit was good and his hair looked nice and fine, but whatever. Like, what does he want? Nothing, man. He's been like taken around the woods by this dude, and then he's like, oh, like some people are coming after him, like this guy, like what's his name, Dickinson. He's like, this guy shot my son, you gotta go after him. So he sends 3 bounty hunters after him, and then it's like, all right, who cares? I mean, we never see Dickinson again. Like, who cares, man?
Chris, what are your notes on this film, and we can riff off that, because I don't really have much to talk about with this movie.
Okay. Like I said, I've seen a few Jim Jarmusch films before. I think I've seen his film Patterson and Mystery Train, and they're both very like similar to this in like how they're quite slow. There's not really much that happens, and like it's more about like there's a lot of like deep philosophical stuff going throughout that I feel like you really have to be paying attention to get completely out of it in a lot of ways. Like for me personally, watching this film, I felt like there's a lot of references to like heaven and hell and like death, basically, because obviously, like I said, it's a guy who's basically dying. But I felt like the opening scene of him on the train could be like a metaphor for like him passing from one world to another, which is one with a very like flawed sense of morality. And like there's quite a strong possibility, at least I think, that Nobody and Cole, one of the main bounty hunters, at least the one who survives till the end, they're basically like a good and bad spirit who are basically trying to take William like into either heaven or hell. So Nobody's like taken across what is pretty much purgatory, because like they're just going through the woods. They're not like in a recognizable town or anything. Everything kind of looks the same. and he's basically getting like a grasp of what William's like moralities are, like whether he's a good or a bad person. And I think basically in the end, like he's a very like conflicted person. Like he's like, seems to be a good person at first, but he does bad things throughout, like kills a bunch of people. And I think that's in the end, like good and evil kind of cancel each other out. Obviously nobody and Cole shoot each other at the end, and William just is pushed off into a boat, which I think could be him like possibly like floating off into limbo. Like he never goes to heaven or hell because he's like a flawed person, but he has positive elements to him as well, so he doesn't deserve to be in heaven or hell. He's just stuck in limbo for eternity.
I'm not gonna lie, that sounds like literally every person ever.
Yeah. Maybe we're all stuck in limbo.
I will say, I really liked the development of Johnny Depp's character throughout the movie. So he starts sort of this very, like, quite timid, I don't want to say shy person, but obviously he goes to the place, gets rejected from his job because he's told he's like a month late, blah, blah, blah. Pardon me. And, yeah, as the movie progresses, he just becomes more desensitized from killing people. I mean, he misses 2 of his shots on killing Dickinson's son, then eventually kills him. And throughout that point, it just becomes easier for him to just murder people. And, yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from. He starts off as like a good, innocent person, and as the movie progresses, he starts to progress more and more and more into, like you said, like a baddish type of person, with just how easily he's shooting people and killing them. I liked the relationship between him and Nobody, and then like the line about I don't understand why Nobody kept asking him about poetry, and why Johnny Depp's character was like, I don't write poetry.
So there's like a famous poet called William Blake, and like throughout the film he basically hints at the possibility of him being like the reincarnated figure of him. Like,
oh really?
Throughout a lot of like Nobody's dialogue, it's like quite poetic and philosophical, and anytime he speaks like that, it's basically just quotes from William Blake's poetry. Most of it comes from a book William Blake wrote called The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, which obviously the film's heavily inspired by, and apparently that book's like written in like a strange Native American-esque style as well.
Right. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I found that part of the movie just interesting. It's just seeing the development of Johnny Depp's character throughout the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there are parts that I like to this movie, honestly. There's like a part where Johnny Depp, Blake, he like shoots a guy, like one of the bounty hunters is wearing a bowl cap, and then he shoots the guy, and then the guy, like as he dies, he shoots his partner, and then like he falls down. Like that was pretty awesome. And then like he falls down, and his head is like in the middle of the fire pit that they had.
Yeah.
And like that was like I wish they'd have just like honed in on that shot, because it looked really good with like the twigs of the fireplace around his head. But unfortunately, like then the other bounty hunter like catches up with him. Then he's like he looks at it, the guy with his head in the fireplace, and it looks like this kind of like religious type of just imagery. And then he looks at it and he goes, "Oh, looks like a goddamn religious icon." And I'm like, why'd you say that? I already knew that. Like, you didn't have to say it. Like, it was so obvious.
And then he stamps on the guy's head and just like fucking pops it open. I didn't expect that. It took me off guard. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. I think that's the only reason this film's an 18. Which, like, it doesn't need to be an 18. This isn't, like, that violent of a film.
No. Jesus, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
And the part where he is, like, one of the bounty hunters is talking about, like, the top bounty hunter. He's like, he fucked his parents. He fucked his parents, and he cooked them up, and he ate them. What the fuck?
I found a lot of this film really, really funny. I don't know whether you guys found it funny, but I found like a lot of the character interactions quite funny. Like like even like in the opening, like you got Crispin Glover shows up, like his face is covered in soot, and he's like, it looks like he's wearing blackface almost. He's just going on this like deep, meaningless monologue, and there's just something about it I found quite humorous. There's also like the scene where William goes into a bar after he finds out this job he goes for doesn't exist, and the bartender hands him a big bottle. William hands him the money, and then he just swaps the bottle out for a smaller one. Like, I just think the timing and subtlety of that bit is really funny.
Yeah, no, I didn't laugh throughout this movie. I don't know. I don't know about this movie. Like I said, I found it far more interesting than I did enjoyable. Would I watch it again? Probably not. Did I have a good time watching it? Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah,
there's like a part where like nobody is telling Blake about how he was captured and like put on a show around the world. Well, that could have been like an interesting story, but I was just so bored at that point. I just didn't care. It was like a less interesting David Lynch cooking quinoa video.
Yeah, I completely understand why someone would watch this film and like find it really boring, because it is a very slow film. That's kind of what a lot of Jim Jarmusch's films seem to be about. Like they like have quite like a hazy sort of feel to them, where there's not really much going on, and it's more about like just a mood rather than like a strong story or anything like that. And I think it works really well. I found it like a very broody film that's filled with despair. It reminds me a bit of a Western film called McCabe and Mrs. Miller, which I watched on Cold to the Touch last year. That was like a similarly very slow, moody sort of film.
Yeah, I think it's always hard for me to really try and get into slow movies.
Yeah, there's a lot that just like happens though. It's just like scenes that happen, and I'm like, okay. Maybe in like a different movie I'd probably be praising it, but like in this it just didn't work for me. It was like they go to like these three guys who are like by a campfire, and they're like talking about like beans or whatever, and then they're just like, oh, you want some beans, man? And it's like this whole
Swap
scene
you
is
some
like
beans for tobacco.
It like had nothing to do with anything. Yeah, it's like, oh, you got some tobacco, man? He's like, no, I don't have any tobacco. I'll swap you some beans for this tobacco, man. And he's like, I don't have any tobacco. And they just keep asking him about the tobacco. And one of them's like Iggy Pop dressed in like a dress and a bonnet.
Yeah,
I'm like, what even is this, man? It's so boring.
Yeah.
And then they all die.
Yeah,
Who cares?
I found out about this film through Kai, because he reviewed it on Letterboxd, and he literally put, I don't think he rated it, he was like, I'm super tired right now, and I'm pretty sure Iggy Pop shows up in a dress and a bonnet, and I don't know if I dreamt that. And that was like what attracted me to it, and that was why I picked it, because it just sounded crazy.
There's like a part when nobody looks at Blake, and Blake's face turns into a skull, and it just like it references like earlier when he said that he was a dead man. I'm like, oh, symbolism. And it would be if he hadn't already said that he thought he was a dead man. It's like, oh yeah, his face has turned into a skull. I know exactly what that's referencing. It's not clever. It's just like an effect.
Yeah, I'll agree that some of it doesn't work incredibly well.
I knew as soon as he walked into that like metalworks factory, like dressed like that he was in for a rough ride. And like John Hurt's in this movie. He like tries to talk to John Hurt, and they're all like very like rough with him, I guess. And then like he's like, I want to talk to Dickinson. So he goes into Dickinson's office, and then he's not, and then Dickinson's not there, and he turns around, then he's there pointing a gun at him.
Yeah,
where
just
the hell did you come
appears.
from? Yeah. Oh, I already got an accountant. What are you talking about? Get out of here.
I love that scene. Johnny Depp like just looks so like confused and shy, and I think he works really well in that scene.
It was, yeah. I've not really seen many of Johnny Depp's movies outside of like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. So it was really good to see him, especially, well, the only other movie that I think I've seen him in other than the Pirates of the Caribbean movies and outside the Fantastic Beasts is Nightmare on Elm Street. And even then, he's barely a character in it. So it was really interesting to see something early on in his career and see him play such a vastly I always say this about like seeing characters play vastly different roles to what they had played before. And I like seeing the diversity of their acting ability, but I also just, I don't know, I just really liked his character in this movie.
Yeah, Johnny Depp's like one of those weird actors where I think like during the 90s he picked a lot of weird movies and I think he did a lot of really good performances. Then after Pirates of the Caribbean, when he became like a massive star, he just became really shit, and now he doesn't really try at all, and he just picks really terrible roles where he basically is just playing the same character every time.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But I do like him a lot in this film.
Yeah, he is good.
I don't know. It feels like the kind of role that you could have put anyone in, and it would have been just as good. I don't think he does the part fine, but it's like, what's his character? I don't really have much of a personality to me. Like, sure, he changes quite a bit over the movie, but it's like, okay, first he was shit at shooting people, and now he's good at shooting people.
Yeah,
and he wears a fur coat. Okay.
The thing that one of the criticisms I have about this movie is that although Johnny Depp does progress as a character throughout this movie, mainly for me, it just becomes so easy for him to kill people. And what I didn't like about the movie is we only briefly saw what he was like before that transition happened, so we really have no idea in terms of on a character motive for him how much of a change this actually is, because he could have been an arsehole outside of this and we would have no idea, and this just could be such an easy change for him to do. I would have liked to have seen maybe what he was like beforehand, a bit of backstory behind him to really nail down this transformation of where he started to where he was now, and how much of an effect and how much of a struggle it actually was for him to do it. But I could just be chatting shit.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. He's not like a very deep, like developed character or anything.
Yeah, I want to see the struggle of him, like battling himself, killing these people, and how much of a change that is to who he was before.
Yeah.
Did you guys like? I kind of take issue with the music in the movie. I thought it was very like samey and quite boring.
Yeah.
Sometimes I didn't
very...
think that it was just like this electric guitar pieces. Sometimes they could be very short. I didn't think like on top of it not being a very good score, I didn't like the way it was used either. It's just like sometimes pieces last like 10 seconds, or like people start talking before the image fades in, and like there'll be music going along, and then like, or they'll end talking after it fades out and the music's still going. I'm like, I don't really care for it.
I was literally just about to say I really loved the music in this film.
Wow.
At the start, I really did enjoy it, but like Max said, it became it almost sounded the exact same throughout the whole movie. And after a while, I was like, I'm just bored of hearing a guitar play a riff. It's just, oh, come on. Something else.
Yeah. No, I can get that. I liked it a lot. It was
but I will say it did set the mood for the scenes that it was in. I will give it that. It was quite good at setting that mood.
Yeah.
But it was always the same mood.
It was all written by the country musician Neil Young. Apparently, like, he was given the film like just to watch in his like house, and he literally just sat there with like a guitar and an organ and stuff, and just like improvised all the music, like just as to what was happening on the screen.
Feels improvised. It feels like he played it as the movie was going. He was like, oh, let's put a little thing in here, and then it's like, oh wait, the scene's ended, I better stop now. Like, okay.
He's like just too busy looking down at his guitar, and he's like, oh shit, the scene's ended.
It's very loose and kind of messy, I agree, but I like that about it. I think it adds some sort of charm and character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course.
One of the bounty hunters like kills the other bounty hunter and then eats him. And like at that point, I'm just like, I don't even care. Oh, okay. He ate him, I guess. All right, he was a cannibal.
Fuck you.
Did
Fuck
nothing
me.
to me.
I liked seeing Alfred Molina from Spider-Man 2 show up at one point.
Oh yeah.
He shows up in like a scene where Nothing like asks for some tobacco, and he's like, "We don't have any." And then William says, "I want some tobacco, please," and he gives him some. I like that scene a lot.
It's a long way from him being asked, "Do you have any tobacco?" "I don't smoke." "If I don't smoke, I wouldn't have tobacco on me."
It's like that part when nobody like takes Blake's glasses, and he's like, he like puts them on himself. He's like, "Oh, maybe you'll see better without them," and he just rides away and like steals his glasses.
Just completely doesn't understand the concept of why people wear glasses.
Yeah, he just like leaves him without his glasses. He can't see, and then like the next time he sees him, he like happens upon him just like having sex in the woods.
Mate, I fucking had to go through a movie marathon with you cunts without wearing glasses, and it just looked like blobs on the screen. Thank God we weren't reviewing movies at that time, because I would not have a clue on what to say.
Yeah. I think the first episode we did, you still hadn't had your glasses at that point, but it was the Cornetto trilogy, so you knew the films already.
Oh. Or maybe. We are, yeah, if I already knew them, then I already knew them. It's not an issue.
I like the scene where Blake finds a baby deer, like dead. So he just like lays down next to it. It's just like a nice shot, I guess. It was quite a nice scene.
Yeah.
Just like punctuated with a few nice scenes. I'm like, that was nice, I guess.
Bambi.
Yeah, it's not a very happy film at all. It's quite a slow, at times quite dark movie.
It is indeed.
Have we got anything else to say about it, or should we move on to ratings?
I've exhausted everything that I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Should we rate this out of stupid white men? Because that was what he kept saying throughout the film.
Hate that. Like, it was funny like the first time.
Plus,
just kept calling him
all
stupid
a bunch
white
of
man.
stupid white men anyway, so...
Indeed we are, so it's not racist.
Mm-hmm. Can't be racist to white people.
That is true. Yeah, as I said, I completely understand why someone wouldn't enjoy this film, but I personally got a lot out of it and really, really loved it. I'm looking forward to watching even more of Jim Jarmusch's work, because he's a very strange and interesting director. I think I prefer his film Mystery Train over this, but I still love this a lot. I'm going to give it 8 stupid white men out of 10.
Oh, very, very high.
Indeed,
I didn't get a lot out of this movie. I thought it was very boring. It was a massive slog to get through, and I just didn't connect with any of it. I thought the acting was fine. I thought the shot composition was fine. And everything was about it was just fine and boring and dull and just like whatever. He just finds this guy in the woods and he's like, "You're my friend now. You can make friends with everyone I find in the woods." So I'm going to give it... Jesus. 3... What was it?
Stupid white men.
3 stupid white men out of 10.
Funnily enough, there is 3 stupid white men here.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So like I said, I liked this movie, but I found it far more interesting than I did enjoyable, and I think that's why I liked it, solely for the character development and in just the progression of Johnny Depp's character, William Blake. Now, like I said, will I watch this movie again? No. Was it okay? Yes. But I don't think, like in the movie, solely on the character development of one person prohibits me giving this a high rating, because at the end of the day, not much happened on this film that I really enjoyed. So I'm going to have to give this also a 3 stupid white men out of 10.
Wow.
Nice. So you didn't really like it at all then?
Well, I didn't enjoy it that much, but I did like it, if you get me. Because of the development of... Just because of how interesting Johnny Depp's character was. But if that's the only thing that I liked about the movie... It's not going to really warrant me giving it a high rating.
No.
There we have it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a hard one to rate because I wanted to give it higher, but I was like, I only really like one thing about it. So can I really would I prefer watching this over the Justice League? No, so I can't give it a higher rating than Justice League.
Fair enough. It's
Justice
half the
League was
length,
so
though.
much better.
Well, there's a black and white Justice League coming out, so...
Yeah. Okay. My recommendation was directed by Terry Gilliam. 12 Monkeys, 1995. Which takes place in the future of 2035. And the world has been decimated by a virus, killing billions and forcing the remainder of humanity underground, leaving the surface to the animals. Ex-con James Cole, played by Bruce Willis, is sent back in time to gather information on the origin of the man-made virus supposedly released by the army of the 12 Monkeys in order to help scientists in his time develop a cure. What do we all think of 12 Monkeys, huh?
Go on, Chris. You can start.
Yeah. This is my second time watching 12 Monkeys. I'm a really big fan of Terry Gilliam. He's one of my favourite directors. And I was hoping that on the second watch I would enjoy the film more. Because the first time I watched it, I was like, I really appreciate what he's doing here. And I respect what he's going for in the film, but I didn't enjoy the film a lot. And the second time around, I kind of felt the exact same. There's a lot I do really love about the film, and I do think it's a very well-made film, but I also find some of it quite dull.
I'm indifferent about this movie. I don't even know. It's going to be another one like last time. I liked the whole plot about him traveling from future to present, or our present, his present to past, trying to figure out all this information on the group. I followed that fairly easily, and I really enjoyed the whole aspect of the going back, blah, blah, blah. I just didn't really... My feelings towards this movie were like Max's feelings towards Dead Man. I didn't really care about the characters. I didn't understand the romance between Bruce Willis's character and the psychiatrist. I don't know why they ended up having feelings for each other in the end of the movie. Kind of confused me a little bit. Just that came out of nowhere, in my opinion. Interesting plot, but if I wanted to watch a movie about the world ending and people being forced to go underground or leave Earth, I would just watch many of the other movies that have the same story or the same
I
premise.
kind of feel the same way.
I can't off the top of my head. Terminator would be a good one. I'd much rather watch the Terminator than watch a movie like this.
Yeah. Terminator's very action heavy, very that's a super action movie, I guess. This is there's definitely action in it, but I think it's more of like a mystery movie, I guess, and just things that unravel.
Yeah, there's obviously that sense of there is the difference between this and me saying that I'd watch Terminator is Terminator straightforward. They know who the villain is, how to defeat them. This is obviously the mystery of trying to figure out, put the pieces together in order to help the future. It just, for me, that alone did not save this movie from me not really enjoying it.
Mm.
I
like
would
this
recommend
movie.
this to people, though, because I think it's a good watch. It is quite interesting, and I know I've used that word a lot today, but I just found more of the plots interesting this time around.
Yeah. I like this movie. I like it a lot. I get a bit of what you guys are saying, obviously. I don't think it's perfect. But I like the performances, I think, are good. Bruce Willis, this is back when he actually cared about making movies, so I get a lot from his performance, I think. Terry Gilliam didn't want him to be this cool suave guy that he always plays, like blue steel look he always gets, so he told him to stop doing that. Like Brad.
He gave him like a list of Willis acting cliches and told him not to do those things.
Oh my, that's amazing.
Apparently Bruce Willis actually did the film for free in the end. He like got paid some royalties from it, but he did it for free, which is like completely different to how he is now, where he will literally do anything if he gets paid a lot of money, and he's just in absolute garbage nowadays.
I thought the acting in this movie was really fucking good though. Bruce Willis just did not remind me of like I didn't see Bruce Willis in this movie and think John Wayne. I saw Bruce Willis in this movie and thought, yeah, he definitely plays someone that you could probably class as just being mentally ill in terms of having like some form of like schizophrenia, making shit up in his own head. And Brad Pitt's character, especially when they're in the mental institution, was fucking phenomenal. I just loved how fucking batshit crazy he was.
Yeah, he's so good in this film.
Yeah.
Class performance by Brad Pitt. I love him. He's such a great actor. Like, apparently, Terry Gilliam was like kind of afraid that he wouldn't be able to pull up like the nervous, like rapid speech kind of thing that he wanted for the character, and he sent him to like a speed coach. But in the end, he he apparently just took away Brad Pitt's cigarettes, and he played the part exactly how Gilliam wanted him to. Yeah,
it's just I loved it when he just like was talking to Bruce Willis's character. Excuse me, and would just like progressively get faster in how he was talking, and then it just lose the plot and just start going on about everything and anything and all these it's just it was very convincing, very good acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like his first Oscar nomination as well, because it's quite early on in his career, and he's just he definitely deserved it because he's so good in the film.
He is. I get a lot from like this kind of through line where like things that have happened, they can't be undone. Like Cole goes back to the past, and he's being asked, "Are you going to save us, Mr. Cole?" He says, "How can I save you? It's already happened." So there's like a lot of like determinism in this movie where like things are just like fixed in time, and his only goal is to just get information so that he can take it back to the future, and then just like get this cure made. So I get a lot from that. I don't know if I like you can agree with the philosophy of the film or whatever, or you can agree with like determinism. I think it works very well for the film.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of like almost Orwellian themes throughout. But the only problem I have with them, although I do think they're good, too much of them remind me of his film Brazil, which I think tackle them so much better. Like, part of the reason why Terry Gilliam picked the script, because he didn't write it was like an already written script, was because so much of it reminded him of Brazil. And anytime I watch this film, I'm just like, there's a lot of really good stuff here, but there's also a lot of stuff that's done so much better in that film.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't seen Brazil, so I guess I have nothing to compare it to. I just I get a lot out of like the experience of this movie. Maybe if I'd saw Brazil, I might change my opinion on this. But maybe that's for a later episode. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's on one of the marathon things.
Oh yeah, it is as well. I like when he's in the mental hospital, he goes back in time, and like every time he goes back in time, he just gets more fucked up. He's like, oh, I can't take this anymore. He like deteriorates mentally every time he's like sent back in time.
Yeah.
And then like he like beats up a cop, so he's like put in a mental institution because he says it's from the future. And then he's like just constantly pumped full of drugs. And then like Goins, Brad Pitt, he's like, I've stolen the key. Now's the time to do it. We're going to escape right now. And like Cole's just there. He's like, oh, what the hell? He's just like monged out on the chair. He's like watching TV, and he's just got to like try and get out of there as he's been given this key. Well, that's like really funny.
Yeah, I love the whole sequence when they like keep accidentally sending him to the wrong time, because he's being meant to be sent to 1996, and like they send him to 1990 first. He eventually gets brought back, and they're like interrogating him like asking him why he didn't like give him the message or something, and then they send him back again. They send him into like World War II or something.
World War One, yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets shot.
Yeah, I find that really funny. I just generally love the look of like the future and like the very like industrial, like strange looking technology and stuff. Like at one point, James is interviewed and there's like this ball which has loads of like small TV screens of like eyes and faces on it. I think that looks fantastic. That's like very signature Terry Gilliam like design sort of stuff.
Did you guys see the Alfred Hitchcock Easter egg in this movie or reference?
The Easter egg. They fucking plastered it on. They went to see Vertigo.
Yeah. And then they see a bit of the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, a reference. I understand that.
Yeah, he's like likening it to the situation that he's in. It's like,
I had to Google the movie because I was like, shit, is this directed by Alfred Hitchcock? And just like, that's a subtle reference to him. And it wasn't. I was like, oh, well, maybe the director just really liked his stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm sure he did. Everyone takes a bit of influence from Hitchcock. I mean, he was one of the greats.
What movies has he done? Because I don't think I've seen many or any, if that.
Loads. He's done loads. Rear Window, Vertigo, The Birds,
Psycho.
Rope, Psycho. Yeah. Loads of stuff.
Nah.
Loads of great movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're all quite old, obviously.
Yeah, he died in like 1975 or something ridiculous. So.
Oh, wow.
I like a lot of like the aesthetics of the movie, as we were saying. It's like I feel like it was like a very grimy or dirty aesthetic with like some of the saturation was like just sapped out of it when he goes back to the past, and then like you get like a lot of like these Dutch angles that are used really effectively throughout the film. He like goes up to the surface in the future, and like all the animals are there. Maybe like some of the CG hasn't aged that well, but honestly it didn't bother me. He's like in this cool like surface suit, like hazmat, but like underneath is like a scuba suit. That all looked really great.
Yeah, I found some of that CGI aged really badly. Like there's like a shot with like birds flying in the sky that looks really bad. But yeah, I do love the uses of Dutch angles. Like there's like a lot of scenes where they're in the mental hospital. Like the camera's like low down, pointing up at the cameras from a Dutch angle, and it's like very disorienting. I think that stuff's really good.
Yeah, it's effective. It's an effective use of the Dutch angle. Terry Gilliam, he knows how to use it. He knows how to use the Dutch angle. I feel like a lot of filmmakers just put them in there just because. Like in Puppy Star Christmas.
Well, yeah. And 4-1,
Thor.
fucking Dutch angles in that, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, 4 where it looks like every character's about to fall off the screen in every shot.
Yeah. They do a couple of them shots in Avengers as well, or in the first Avengers movie, mainly when Thor's on screen. And it was done well in this movie. Wasn't just randomly put in for the sake of it being in there and like, oh look, a Dutch angle.
Yeah. Well, Terry Gilliam's like, before he was a director, he was like an artist, so he has a great visual style. Like he really understands how to make something look good. And there are a lot of really good shots and a lot of really good like just design work generally throughout the film, even if some of like the effect work is quite dated, like we said about the CGI. And there's like a few like green screen shots that I think are quite like obvious, but apart from that, I think just visually is like a really well done film.
Yeah, there's like I felt like a lot of it was like very emblematic of the time we're living in like right now, because of like the virus and like the fact that we're in a pandemic. Like they're all like they go to this conference and like Rayleigh's telling them that there was a guy who like prophesized this virus and it was going to happen next year, and they all like laugh at it. I'm like, oh, if only you knew.
Yeah, there was a lot of bits like that where I was like, this is like hits too close to home nowadays.
I liked like James Cole as a character. I do think Bruce Willis plays him really well. I love how he goes back to the past, and he's like fascinated by all this stuff that he'd never got when he was young. He doesn't know how to drive a car. He's like fascinated by the car radio and like how clean the air is. Yeah, and all the like the
Loves music.
That's another thing. Like the music in this movie, really good. There's a theme that goes on. Like it's like this accordion type of theme that's goes on throughout the movie. I really like that. It really like you think of that and you definitely, that's like cemented in this movie.
Yeah. I actually, weirdly enough, think the opposite, just like with Dead Man. I do really like that. I really like that accordion bit, but that's like a piece of licensed music. Like it's a piece by Astor Piazzolla, written in the 80s. Man. All like the original music I find sounds quite rushed and like almost like it's from like a low budget movie. Apart from that piece, I don't think any of it's really that memorable or really sticks out at all. A lot of it I find quite forgettable.
Yeah, maybe.
I really need to try and start paying attention to music a lot more in movies. Because it's just I get so engrossed on watching it or bored that I don't pay attention to it. But I just, unless the music is very prominent, I really just don't notice it sometimes. Like in Dead Man, it was easily noticeable because it's probably some of the only music in the movie, especially when there are guitarists going on. So that was easy to like listen out for. But in movies like this, where I'm trying to pay attention to the plot to figure out where it's going and understand what's going on, I just more often than not zone out the music and I don't even take note of it in the actual film.
No, I think in some ways it's kind of a good thing if that happens. Like music is kind of more there to like help the emotion of the scene and like keep you invested rather than always have like a recognizable theme where you're like, oh, that sounds cool and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like, I think in some movies the music isn't meant to be noticed by itself. I don't know if this is just what you've said, but the music is meant to make a scene better without actually having noticed the music is actually influencing it itself, if you get me.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's just there to like enhance the emotions.
Yeah, so you won't notice the music itself, but if you took it out, you would notice that it's gone. There's something missing from the scene.
Yeah, definitely.
I love how he like goes back to the future, but he's been sent to the wrong time, and he's like, "You sent me to the wrong time," and they're like so disappointed in him. Like the scientists are like, Cole, how could you do this to us, buddy? This was going to be your big break.
Back to the right fucking time then.
Now we're going to have to do this again.
Do you want another chance?
I love the bit where he's like, he thinks he's like looking at just a picture and then suddenly all the scientists just appear in front of him. That bit's really funny.
That's really funny. They start like singing to him.
Yeah. There's a very similar bit in The End of Brazil. And in that film, it's like done as like this really dark, horrifying plot twist. So it's interesting seeing Terry Gilliam do it again, but in like a completely different context, where it's like a completely different emotional reaction.
Yeah. Gotta watch that movie, man.
You do.
It's a lot of the just like a lot of the technical stuff that they go through. Like apparently this is like one of the standout movies where time travel actually works the way it's set out in the movie.
Yeah, time travel can be very, very difficult to do in a movie. Like, let's take Terminator for example. That is just a shit show of what it actually like the time travel itself. But this made a lot of sense, especially when they were like, "Are you gonna save us?" And like Max said earlier, he says, "I can't. It's already happened." Or how can I? It's already happened. And it makes a lot of sense that nothing he does or nothing he should do would impact the present and the future. All he can do is try to get information to make the future better from his point forward. There's no like retconning of timelines or changing his own timeline or anything like that. It's just about coming back to get information to make his future better. I really liked how simple it was,
Yeah.
and how it was like not what's the word I'm looking for? Convoluted in any way.
Well, that makes like the fact that he wants to like stay in the past even more like sad and like melancholy in a way. He's got all this stuff that he never grew up with, but he can't stay there. So he ends up getting shot.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a very good portrayal of time travel. The problem with it in a lot of films is like either they'll like constantly be loads of plot holes because they don't explain a lot, or they'll like make it so complicated and convoluted that none of it makes sense. Like even like the film Looper, which also like it's kind of similar in how it also shows Bruce Willis going back in time and seeing like a younger version of himself, which happens in this film. Although I think that film's good, the time travel in that is like this. A lot of it doesn't make any sense, and there's so many plot holes. But this film, like they do it in a very simple, understandable, and quite realistic way that I really appreciate.
Yeah, agree.
I like that they explain this this thing called the Cassandra complex, which is like the ability to know the future, but to be disbelieved about it. So like, he goes back in time, but who's going to believe him? Yeah. And that's why he goes to the mental hospital.
I don't know if you guys know this, but it's like, I think in the opening credits they say it actually, like it's heavily inspired by a French New Wave short called La Jetée, directed by Chris Marker from the 60s, which basically has the exact same premise and the same like time travel rules and everything like that. It's basically like almost like the same film, but definitely not quite as good. Like it's all like told in like freeze frames, like it's just still images rather than being told like a proper narrative. It's very interesting to see it done in that. But yeah, I definitely think this film tackles that a lot better. It takes like what that film does and improves upon it and does something like completely different with that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This feels quite tight, I would say. I feel like it could probably drag a bit. It's like 2 hours long. Maybe like at points I didn't feel like maybe not that certain scenes were necessary. It's just like I don't know if they were like handled as well with like pacing issues. Yeah,
that's the biggest problem I have with the film. That's why I don't love the film, and I do find it a little bit dull at points. Like the whole relationship between James and Catherine, I really did not give a shit about. Like some of it felt quite forced, especially when they finally get together at the end, and like even like a lot of scenes of them like just going around in like the second act, like trying to work out like the mystery of who the Army of the 12 Monkeys are and stuff like that. That sort of stuff I just didn't really care about as much as I cared about the time travel stuff and like the overall mission and even stuff with like Brad Pitt's character and things like that.
Yeah, agreed.
I found this piece of trivia. It says, a tagline originally suggested for this film was, "The future is in the hands of a man who has none." This was considered to be a confusing tagline, as it made it sound as though he had no hands, as opposed to having no future. And like, as I read that tagline, I was like, that was weird. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, not a great tagline.
I'm like, what? He had no hands? What does that mean? Pretty sure he did.
Yeah.
He had hands, I saw them.
The first time I watched this film, the ending where they tie it to the beginning and like you see James is like as a child watching older James get shot, which he saw at the beginning, that just blew my mind, and I still think it's incredibly well done. Like, I was worried, I was worried going into the film knowing that would happen, I wouldn't be as invested in like the third act, but I still found it like very enjoyable.
Yeah, pulls the rug out from under you.
Yeah.
It's a really great moment.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Second time around, it's kind of sadder knowing it's going to happen, knowing that this guy's like fighting to stay in the future, fighting for this happy life with this girl that he's fallen in love with, knowing that that's not going to happen because it can't happen.
Yeah. Determinism. It loops around with those themes. I like, just like Brad Pitt his like mannerisms are like great. He's like talking about like he worships his father. He's like, when my father finds out, it's like he likens him to God. He's got these like really, I don't know if he like wore lenses, but his eyes look really strange, like he's been, I don't know, like doing drugs or something.
Yeah, he does look very doped up, especially in like the mental hospital scenes.
It was just crazy. I've never seen him do a performance like this before. This was like probably a performance that really turned me on to like how good he is as an actor.
Yeah, I was the same. I was never really a big fan of him before, and then I watched this and I was like, oh, he's actually really good, and I think I paid attention to a lot of his roles a lot more.
Yeah. This is like just before he'd done Seven.
Yeah, it was like the same year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What's in the box?
Have we got anything else to say?
Not really.
No, I've exhausted all of my thoughts about this movie.
Skadoosh.
Nice. What are we going to rate it out of?
I was going to say
Monkeys.
12. Yeah, monkeys. I was going to say 12. No, we've already done monkeys, haven't we?
Have we?
I don't know. We'll do it out of
Probably
monkeys
at
anyway.
some point.
Fuck it.
Okay.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Indeed. Yeah, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Terry Gilliam. He's one of my favourite directors. And his film Brazil, as I keep mentioning, like I kept mentioning it throughout my review, it's like one of my favourite films of all time. And I do think it does a lot of the themes of the film better. But I still don't hate the movie. I still respect it a lot. And I appreciate a lot of what he was doing. It's a very interesting, well-made movie, even if I don't love it. So I'm going to give it 7 monkeys out of 10.
Ooh, very good, very good.
Yeah. I like this movie. I like it a lot. I probably would watch it again, even though this is my second time watching it. I might give it a while, because like some of it does drag, but I ultimately enjoy the experience I get with it. I think the acting is good, like really good, and like the premise and the plot is really interesting, and I think it's visually quite entertaining too. So I'm gonna give it 8 monkeys out of 10.
Oh, very good. High scores. I enjoyed the story of this film. I enjoyed the acting in this film. I did find myself losing concentration at some points throughout the movie, but as we've already said, or you guys have pointed out, this movie can drag at points, and I think that's probably why I was just like, I know what's going on, we don't need this here, can we just progress? This is a movie I would recommend people watching more so than Dead Man, just because this is a very interesting take on time travel. Jesus, and I'm trying to think of what to give this out of 10, because would I watch this over Justice League? Probably not. Was this a better movie than Justice League? Definitely. So saying that, this is a hard one, because I think my ratings have been so obscure today. I'll give it a 6. I would recommend this over Justice League. It was more interesting than Justice League, but some parts of it, it's like we've said, the romance just threw me off, and yeah. 6 monkeys out of 10.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So fairly good scores all around. More so from you two than from me.
Yeah.
So, my recommendation were... Fuck me, I don't even know what that was. So my recommendation for this week was another Bruce Willis movie. No, it wasn't. It was a... shit, what's his name?
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. My recommendation for this week was another Jim Carrey movie. It was The Truman Show. So it's basically a show about a kid that was born and then thrust into a reality TV show where his whole life is basically a lie, and he's being watched by nearly every person on the planet going about his daily life, going to work, being married, trying to have a child, all stuff like this. And then as the movie goes on, he's told by people and things start to happen where he starts to realise that he is living in a world that isn't real, and then by the end of the movie, he leaves. I think I described that well enough.
Spoiled it straight away.
Chris, in every review we do, we spoil the movies, hence why we put a spoiler warning in the description. I don't think we're ever going to talk...
You've got to build up to it.
Oh, well... Really, do you have to build up to it?
Yeah. It doesn't matter, anyway.
What we've done to Max.
Anyway, this movie, The Truman Show, watched it a few times now. I showed it to my brother the other month. He really liked it. And I like it too. I think it's fantastic. He said on an earlier episode that this was one of Jim Carrey's best performances. I still think that he is really great in this movie. It's more of a comedic role, but it's like there's a lot of like drama involved with it as well. So I get a lot from his performance. I get a lot from everybody else's performances, like trying to like go along with this like play essentially. That's just about him, and I get a lot of like themes to do with like surveillance state, which maybe could have been like an issue back then. Like people might have been worried about that. I know like this was like right before like people thought Y2K was going to happen or computers were going to stop working. But I mean, it's what can I say? We talked about a Peter Weir film before in the podcast, Picnic and Hanging Rock. I think he likes a lot of like the psychological angles that he can put on movies that maybe you wouldn't think would have such a big emphasis on the psychology, but this it's I really love it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. I again really liked this movie. Another performance by Jim Carrey that I found really fucking good, especially the parts like midway throughout the movie where he really starts to question what's real and what's not. Like the scene, for example, where he confronts his wife about, I bet you're in on this as well, and he just sort of starts to lose it, and I just thought it is really good acting. Like I really enjoyed every scene that Jim Carrey was in. I enjoyed this whole movie. It was really good. Like I said, I've been wanting to watch this since like mid to late last year, and I'm so glad that I finally got around to watching it. Because this was my first time seeing it, and yeah, it was really good. I love the concept of it being just the only reason Jim Carrey's character was the person in this show is he wasn't picked. It was that he was born on cue or in time. I can't remember the exact line that the guy who's directing it uses. But he was born like 2 weeks early, and it made it perfect for the air date for this show.
Yeah, I love this film. I've seen it so many times now. It was a film I used to watch a lot as a kid, and I can't remember when the last time I watched it is, but I think it's been like a good few years. And rewatching it, I was like surprised at how much of it I remembered. Like there was never a point where I was like, oh, I don't remember that happening at all. I like pretty much remembered it verbatim. But none of it like didn't work or anything. Well, at least for the most part, I think pretty much everything is really good and well done in the film. Like we said already, Jim Carrey is so good in the film. I think he like manages to balance out the humor and comedy super, super well. Especially like Connor said in the scenes where he starts to lose it. Like one of my favorite moments in the film is where he just snaps and like decides to drive to New Orleans. And like everything is like trying to stop him, and he's like just gone insane, and he's like driving around in circles, and at one point like the road catches on fire, and eventually he goes somewhere where there's been like a nuclear leak, and he jumps out and like starts trying to run to the barriers of whatever is out there. That sort of stuff is just so good. I think he's just incredible throughout the whole film.
Yeah, this is like, I can definitely understand like Jim Carrey is just, he's so unique in terms of just him. I watched like behind the scenes of a movie that he did. I can't remember what, and it was only like a little short, like 3 or 4 minute clip on YouTube. But it's just like the way he acts in between scenes or on set and in movies is just so I don't know. It's just so his performances are always captivating. It's just whenever I watch a movie with him in it, whether it's the movie we watched last week, whether it's like The Mask, Bruce Almighty, whether it's this, it's just like I'm always sucked in just by his performance. He's just so good in every role that he does.
Yeah, even in a lot of like the really like shit comedies he's been, like just the really generic like 90s 2000 comedies that he's been in, he always delivers a really good performance, and he's always super captivating. Like he's always the most interesting parts of like the films he's in.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm like the only one who thinks this, but Jim Carrey's one of those actors where I will see he's in a movie, I know the movie is shit, but I want to see it because Jim Carrey is in it.
Yeah, I think I went through his like filmography and I've seen like 60 or 70% of what he's been in, just because I loved him growing up and would watch literally anything he was in.
Yeah.
He's perfect for
he's
this role too, this character. He completely embodies it. It's like the character was made for him. I couldn't imagine anyone else being Truman Burbank.
No, I think the writer said that from the get-go, he was like the only person like he had in mind for the film.
Yeah, it's just like he plays it so, but just so comedically, but not meaning to. It's like when we're introduced to him in the beginning of the film, and he's just walking to work, and he's just like, it's just so over the top with every piece of dialogue that he gives. So it makes it more impactful when he switches and he becomes so uncertain of what's going on around him, and he takes such a more serious but still comedic tone in what he's saying and how he delivers his dialogue. It just is such a contrast, but they blend so well.
Yeah. I like the commentary on like the world or like the society that we find ourselves in is still incredibly relevant. People are always like advertising things. It's like, oh, this beer is so great. Yeah. Oh, that hit the spot. Or like, hey, you should get one of those new elk rotaries, the lawnmower. And it's just like these like product placements, but in real life. So it's like, because it's all on TV, they have to like advertise everything. Like they say, oh, all the clothing is on sale. Everything you see in the show is for sale. So I get a lot of like that, and like the way it just emulates real life just incredibly well. And they say like nothing you see on the show is fake, and it's like maybe that's what we'd like to think when we watch TV and we get sucked into it so much. People will invest their entire lives in this show. It's like people's comfort, and then like it ends at the end when Truman gets out, and then they're just like, what else is on? And they just switch channels. It's like, yeah, okay,
that made me laugh so fucking much when the two security guards are just like, oh, I wonder what else is on, and they just change the channel. And I'm like, all I can picture is they've been watching the same TV program every day for like 20 to 30 years, and then as soon as it ends, they're just like, oh, what else is on? It's almost like just jumping on the next thing. There's always something people are going to be watching or interested in, and it's just like,
it's like a really great subtle statement on like how audiences like have quite a lack of attention, and as soon as something ends, they'll just easily jump to something else and latch onto that from then on.
What do you think? Like, was it earlier this year or late last year when Boys Season 2 came out? Literally, it's all you were hearing about, and now
everyone's on about Snyder Cut.
Exactly.
Throughout the whole film, there's like a deep satire on television and like the state of it at that point, because that was like when it came out, reality TV had just become like a big thing, and like I think a lot of the film is kind of satirizing that and making fun of it. And there's also some satire on like suburban life as well, like how perfect and clean everything is throughout. I think that stuff's really good. And like Max said, with like the advertisements, like his wife Meryl like constantly brings stuff from the store and like basically does like an advertisement presenting it to him. And like there's a scene that happens a couple times throughout the film where like Truman's on his way to work, and like there's these two twins who like push him against a wall, so like he's perfectly in frame with this.
And it's
like,
a new billboard.
Yeah,
each
with
time,
a billboard on the wall. Yeah, that sort of stuff's great. this film has a lot to say, and I think it handles it all incredibly well in a way where like it's never like being shoved down your throat. Like you can watch this film and just like enjoy it without thinking of any of that stuff, but like rewatching it over and over again, that's stuff that you pick up more and more and realize just how like obvious it is.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
like this like really well-mannered situation, and like Truman's well-mannered because he's grown up in a world where everything's sort of just been surrounded like by just these well-mannered things, and people watch it and they sit on their couches and they go, oh, that was nice, that was really nice, this is like really nice television to make people happy and comfortable. And under the surface there's just like cynicism and this like oppression that I get from it anyway, and I feel like that's like I get that from a lot of just like modern day like media as well, or just like how things are presented to us through like be it like TV, film, or like journalism. It's just like all these things that seem nice on the surface, but like you dig a little deeper and it's like something horrible is going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of like that sort of stuff. It's like crazy how much of it is so relevant still today, like how we have like these corporations and stuff kind of manufacturing like what is real, like what is like presented as real, when like in reality there's like a darker truth to everything, like trying to make everything super happy and keep everything positive, even though that's not how the world works.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's probably more... Sorry, Max, what were you saying?
It's like this could easily be like some like psychological horror movie. It could easily be that, but it's so smart. It's so smartly written and presented. It's like, how could it be anything other than a comedy when it's like it's just this satire on like the world that we live in, and people don't like the life is not like a gruesome like horror. It's not. It's like this like mannered thing. Like everybody's like you got to conform to societal norms, and like everything's very well mannered. If you like disturb the peace, you're considered like an outlier, and it's just like the perfect way to frame it.
Yeah, the original script apparently wasn't a comedy at all. It was like a dark drama. Like I was reading like some of the stuff they cut out, and there was like meant to be a scene where like as younger Truman, when he's like a teenager, he's like walking along and he sees like a woman being raped or something, and like he just carries on walking and ignores it, and like the actors stop and they're like, well, we thought he would do something.
Jesus Christ.
There's a lot of really dark stuff like that, but Peter Weir, when he read the script and like pitched it to the studio, he was like, I'm only going to make this film if we make it a comedy. And the writer was like, okay, yeah. And the writer kept like writing new drafts, and Peter Weir would take it and go, it's not funny enough, do it again. And he'd keep doing that until like he thought the film was funny enough to shoot.
Oh, I love him.
That's good though. Like it's definitely paid off. He definitely knew what type of movie that he wanted to make, and he really obviously understood the movie itself in order to be able to completely deny all the scripts until he found one that was right for his vision, or the vision that he had for this movie.
Yeah, and there are a lot of really hilarious moments in the film. Like there's the scene where Truman like follows Meryl into like her job, because obviously she's like a surgeon. She's like got a big surgery that day, and he managed to break in, and he's like staring in, looking at it, and everyone's like shitting themselves, and like the surgeon's like, okay, I'm just gonna put this scalpel in her leg now, and like his voice cracks while he does it. He's like shaking. It's just so funny.
Yeah, there's that guy who like drives every vehicle in the city. He's like, I don't actually know how to drive a bus. I don't know how to drive this boat. It's like we don't even need to drive boats here because Truman's so afraid of the water. Because of what happened to him when he was younger.
I loved it when the ending when he's on the boat and he's making his way out to see if he can escape, and his mate goes to the dock and he's like, why aren't you going? He's like, we don't know how to drive. We're only actors. And they're like, yeah, they don't know how to do anything. They are literally just paid to be there.
There's another bit I found really funny where the producers are like intentionally trying to keep like Truman like sane, because obviously he's like thinking, oh, there's something out there, I need to like leave right now. And like he's like gets home, like sits down, he's watching TV, and there's like an advert for like a film which is all about being happy with where you are in life or something, and not like going out of your comfort zone. I found that bit really funny.
Yeah, there's all that stuff there. There's like when he goes to like the travel agent and he just looks at this poster with like a plane in like a storm and the lightning's going through it, and it just says it could happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's anything to try and deter him from leaving.
Yeah, I find that stuff really funny. I love the music throughout this film. Like a lot of it is like purposely done like a 90s TV drama would be, so it's all like on synths and keyboards and stuff. A lot of the music actually reminds me of some of the stuff in Twin Peaks and sort of like those sort of soap operas around in like the late 80s and 90s. So like even like the fake one in Friends, Days of Our Lives, like the sort of music they play in that, that's the sort of stuff they have in here, and I think it really fits like the setting incredibly well.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of great like piano pieces and orchestral stuff going on. There's like the song, the score when he's like driving the boat in the storm. That's like really tense, and like it captures the scene so well. But that's just a really fantastic song.
Yeah,
I like how they like use like the cameras. So like we see what the show sees. There's like just cameras everywhere. He's like, oh, there's like 5,000 cameras here. He's like, you see like in places where you just wouldn't expect to see a camera, like there's like in people's buttons on their like, vests, or like in like there's one in like a pencil sharpener, and then when Truman like sharpens the pencil, it like whirls around. It's really creative.
Yeah, that stuff's really good. I love Ed Harris in the film. He plays the director Christoph. I love the way they like eventually reveal him. It takes like almost half the film for him to actually be shown, and from the rest of then like you show him, there's like loads of scenes of him like directing the show. That stuff's really good. Although there's like one scene where he talks to Harry Shearer, who's like does loads of voices on The Simpsons. He's like a like TV presenter or something, and like he's talking to him and breaking down all the ways the show works. And like that scene, I do think it's interesting, but in some ways I feel like it removes some of the mystery away from the film. Like I think it would have been a lot more interesting if like they didn't explain like that there's like a huge set, and they didn't explain the way like things work in the show, like how there's like adverts and stuff, and how everything you can buy and stuff like that. I think maybe if they didn't like explain that, I would have gotten a lot more out the film, maybe.
Yeah, it definitely leaves a lot to be imagined, and I think having an imagination in a film and sort of interpreting it or picturing your own things to fill in this story with definitely will enhance anything. So I definitely get what you mean there. Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like it. There's like the part in the middle, sort of, where it just like cuts away, and it's not to do with Truman. It's just to do with like how the show works, and then like you get this interview with Christoph. I really like all that. Maybe it's like maybe I would have preferred it if it was all just from like Truman's perspective, but honestly, I don't really mind just getting a look into how everything works, and just like the lengths that they've gone to in order to set this all up. I find it really interesting.
Yeah. I don't have an issue with like showing Ed Harris like directing it and stuff. It was mostly just that interview where they break down like everything about the show that I didn't like as much. I felt like it left less up to the imagination than would have been there otherwise.
I would have found that scene, I don't know if this would have been better or worse for the film itself, but for me, this would have been more interesting, is instead of having him explain how the show works, I would have much preferred to have heard more people calling into the studio to have a conversation with him, to see the audience reaction to the show. Obviously, we find out, one of the ex-employees, disgruntled employee, brings up a very good point that he's not helping Truman. He's imprisoned him in this world that isn't real, And then it's the dilemma of, well, is Truman lives a happy life, everything that he wants he gets, and the only reason any unhappiness happens is because he finds out there's an outside world. So is it a good thing that he's in this world where he'll never have to suffer anything very negative in his life, or is taking the experience of life away from him a good thing or a bad thing? But it would have been good to see how the real world, our world, the outside world, sort of view the movie. And I guess you get that from the scenes where you see people watching them on... Oh god, I've just whacked the mic there, sorry about that. I guess you see that with the reactions. One, when he escapes or leaves the set, and you've got people that are cheering, people that like are praising, like sort of really backing him, and then people that are, like the guy in the bathtub, for example, that is really disappointed that the show's ended. So I guess when we see the outside world in that aspect, we do see the connection people have with this show. But I don't know. I would have wanted, like, for me personally, just a bit more on what people thought of it.
Yeah, I like that ending. It's like a great, like, cathartic ending. You see the people's reaction, and it's like, yeah, this is like a season finale for the end of the show, and you get all these people just like up in arms and like really cheering for him. I find it so like really nice, and I love like when he escapes, he's like, he crashes into the sky on his boat, and then he like has to walk along the sky. Like when he like puts his hand out and he like touches like this barrier from like the dome that's like the edge of the world. It's such a powerful moment. And then like he walks up he like literally like it's like a stairway to heaven almost. And he like walks up the staircase and he comes out. It's so powerful.
There were so many in that last scene. There were so many symbolisms that the director was playing God with Truman's life. When he's talking over the speakers and Truman looks up to the sky, it's almost like God is talking to him. Like Max said, walking in the sky, almost like he's flying, or walking up the stairway into just God, he doesn't know where. Like, there's just so many symbolisms for like he had no control, and yeah.
I do. I love that so much. It's like Christoph saying, like, you won't find any truth out there. Like, I've built this world for you. Everything's fine here, Truman, and you're going to be, like, you're taken care of. Everything's wonderful. But it's like, I get, like, a lot of this throughout the movie. It's just this depiction of, like, a yearning for true freedom instead of, like, manufactured freedom. Yeah. Which I feel probably might have been relevant to that time, definitely. But I still get, like, so much out of it. And I think it's like it's only gotten more relevant, honestly. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of like really subtle details throughout that I didn't like even notice this time around. Like I was like reading into bits. Like there was a scene early on where on Truman and Meryl's kitchen table there's like a bottle of vitamin D, which obviously you'd like kind of need if you're not being exposed to the sun properly. But there's a lot of like subtle things like that throughout that I think leads the film to leads you to have to rewatch the film multiple times to really get everything out of it.
Yeah, 100%.
I didn't even notice that. I'll look out for that the next time.
Yeah,
I really liked Meryl, played by Laura Linney. I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, she's really good in it.
Like maybe like in like a similar film, I'd feel like the wooden performances from people who were like trying to like keep it together, or like he finds that there's like people on a loop going past his house. I'm like, all right, in real life that wouldn't happen. Why are they on a loop? But I just feel like it works for this movie. I really love her. She's like I love when like he finds out and then he's like takes like a spatula to her neck and she's like, somebody help me, and then like where his friend comes through the door and she's like, how can anybody expect me to work under these conditions?
Yeah,
it's unprofessional.
So unprofessional.
Yeah, such a good line. There's also like Christoph says that he in the interview he was determined that the first on-air conception would take place. I'm like, Jesus Christ. First of all, how do you hire actors who are like willing to like take up most of their lives, like all of their lives, just for this one thing? You know, like, how do you like hire an actor from like a young age and tell them like, you're going to meet Truman and you're going to fall in love with him and you're going to have his babies? Like, how is that?
Yeah, I did find that rather. That's the only issue that I had with this movie. I was like, and it was only that one character, his wife. I'm like, so she knows, like, in their whole entire marriage, have they slept together? If so, how much they fucking paying her to do that?
Yeah.
And then, like you
she
said,
like doesn't even really like him.
Yeah, and then like to conceive his child and then have the child, you're going through 9 months of real pregnancy, and then are you looking after this child? If they kill you off, do you have to leave the kid with Truman? Do they kill the kid off as well so you can take it with you, take him or her with you, or it like whatever it identifies as?
Yeah, apparently in the original script, there's like multiple scenes of them sleeping together, and there was also like the producer was saying that he'd planned to get them to have a baby, and then there would be like 2 channels. So there'd be like Truman and then like a spin-off channel for his child, and eventually they'd kill Truman off and it would just be all about the child.
It'd be too dark. It'd be way too dark. I'm so glad they didn't go with that. It'd be horrible.
Damn.
I just thought like he's been like basically manufactured by these people. His life has been shaped how they wanted it to be shaped. He's got the job that they wanted him to have or whatever. He's got the life that they wanted him to have. What if he just decided one day on a dime, I'm just going to turn to a life of crime, and he becomes like a criminal?
That's what I thought. Like when he's like convinced that he doesn't live in like in the real world and he's in a reality show, or it's all fake, and he obviously threatens his wife with that spatula. I was like, literally, what would happen if he just went around and just started murdering people? Because everyone there is an actor, so no one could really put him in prison. No one there is an actual police officer, so no one's going to have the... 1, they're not required to do anything about it. 2, they're going to be unqualified to do anything about it. So fight or flight would cause them to run. At that point, what would happen? Like, what is to stop him from just doing that?
Yeah, I'm sure as soon as he murdered someone, everyone would like quit and like leave. Yeah. It would just be him by himself.
Yeah, 100%.
He just went on like a rampage.
I've had fuck enough of all of you.
Have you guys heard about the Truman syndrome, which is like a real life like mental delusion now of people like believing the events of the films happening to them? Like, there's been a number of people who've like experienced it apparently in like both the UK and the US. Like the most recent like person's like in 2013 apparently. There was like some guy in Ohio who like suffered from it for years. Like, he just believed his life was a TV show.
What's the whole thing of people believing they're in a simulation? Like, this is a simulation.
Yeah.
That's like a big thing with like just people feeling very self-important. Like, everything in this world revolves around me. It's like, no, it doesn't, you idiot. We're not all actors for you. You know what? You're not that cool. You're not that interesting. Why the hell would we center a world and a show around you?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Bob from marketing. No one cares about you.
Have we got anything else to say about the film, or are we good to go to ratings?
I'm good for ratings.
Nice. What should we rate this one out of?
Truman's.
No. Hidden cameras.
Okay, hidden cameras, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great movie. Like I said, I've seen it so many times, and it's a film that I'm not sick of. I think I'll see it so many times more. I do have like small issues with the film, which I brought up, but for the most part, I think this is a really well made, funny film with great acting. So I'm going to give it 9 hidden cameras out of 10.
Nice. I also like the part when he's on the boat and they're trying to like knock him off the boat, and he says, "Oh, is that the best you can do? You're gonna have to kill me." Such a great line. This movie's amazing. I get so much from it. I love just pretty much everything about it. I think it's pretty masterful. I also watched Picnic at Hanging Rock again, that we reviewed for the podcast a couple of weeks later. And I like that a lot more on a third view as well. So I think this is also like that in a way, where you probably could take more out of it than what you watch it. And I love movies like that. I'm going to give it 10 hidden cameras out of 10.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I'm so glad that I finally got around to watching this movie. It's incredible. Story was fantastic, interesting, captivating. Jim Carrey is just Jim Carrey. One of a kind. So I'm going to have to give this movie a 9.5 out of 10 hidden cameras.
Nice.
Very nice.
Near on perfect. Actually, no. Do you know what? No, it is a 10.
Oh,
fantastic movie. Fantastic movie.
Skadoosh.
We'll watch this again by the end of the year, most definitely.
Yeah. Skadoosh.
Yes. Very nice.
So thankfully this week, as me and Chris have forgotten to do recommendations, we realised that we didn't need to.
Yeah.
So next week is the 25th special.
25th episode.
25 special.
Yeah. We've been hyping it up. We've been going through this weeks now.
Yeah.
If you're in the Sunday Movie Marathon fan club, I'm sure everyone is, you'd notice that we'd been really hyping this episode up to... Obviously, it's warranted, because the next episode we're going to be talking about...
God, don't ruin it. Let him figure it out.
What?
Just let him figure out by the total of the next episode.
We can announce it. Then you get a week to watch it.
Yeah.
Mate, no one's going to watch this movie in this in a week. It's 22 episodes.
You never know.
We barely did it over a month.
We haven't done it yet.
Well, exactly.
I've been doing one episode a day. You can do it too. And the show that we're going to watch is season 1 from 2005 of a show that I'll explain why we're doing this in the next episode, because I think in execution it was a bit weirder. It was a bit more all right. It was funnier in theory, but
Yeah.
we stuck to it now and we're going to do it. So the show is season 1 of Bones.
Yeah.
Mate, how many people have been watching the last few weeks and they're like, oh, it must be a really good 25th episode, and you've just said it's season 1 of Bones, and they're like, what, a show that came out in 2005? Who fucking cares?
Imagine there was someone who actually listens to this every week and they're like, oh shit, I'm watching Bones at the moment.
I love that show.
Fuck
Yeah.
me.
But if you
That'd
haven't
be
watched it,
amazing.
If you want to
watch
catch
it.
up on it, it's on Disney Plus and Amazon Prime.
Or if you haven't got any streaming services, email Max and he will send you a copy of the box set.
I will not.
So,
Well,
yeah,
That's
we'll explain.
that. Don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, like Max said, we'll explain why this episode came to be in next week's episode. But until then,
It's not
Max is
particularly
gonna plug
interesting.
the social medias, and then we'll do our obligatory awkward goodbyes, and then
I'm gonna
we'll
do
see you cunts next week.
I'm going to plug the social medias. We got YouTube, the Sunday Movie Marathon. We got Twitter, @Sunday Movie Pod. Facebook, @Sunday Movie Marathon. And Letterboxd, @Sunday MM. Thank you so much for listening to episode 24 of the Sunday Movie Marathon.
OnlyFans is on the way.
We just post pictures of the DVDs out of their cases.
Camembert.